Right, good morning, and thank you all for joining us at this leg of BusinessWorld Insights, this session presented by PayMaya and the USAID E-PESO Project. My name is Tiago Arnaiz, and I'll be moderating today's discussion on digital payments, empowering LGUs in and beyond the new normal. Over the years, the leaders and administrators of our nation's local government units have worked tirelessly to build better, more inclusive, and more effective systems for their communities. In that pursuit, a number of private partners have stepped forward as powerful enablers in this bid to co-create a better world for Filipinos. Today, we'll be speaking with a number of those public and private innovators with the hope that everyone in our audience leaves today's session with practical, actionable insights on the exciting possibilities available today to tech up their cities. This event is supported by the Department of the Interior and Local Government, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, and the Management Association of the Philippines. So we have a fantastic lineup of speakers joining us today, and I'd love if we could meet them all right now. So starting off today's session is Mr. Orlando Vea, founder and CEO of Voyager Innovations and PayMaya. To give our keynote address is DILG Undersecretary for Operations, Undersecretary Densing. We have our session speakers, ARTA Director General Jeremiah Belhica and Valenzuela City Mayor Rich Gatchalian. And joining our speakers in this afternoon's panel are Mamerto E. Tangonan, Chief of Party of the USAID E-PESO Project, and Marvin Santos, Head for the Public Sector at PayMaya Enterprise. We'd also like to acknowledge a few of our distinguished guests joining us this afternoon. ULAP President Governor Dakila Carlo Cua of Quirino, Executive Director of the Management Association of the Philippines, Arnold Salvador, members of ULAP and the Management Association of the Philippines, local chief executives from all over the country, and of course, our fellow friends from the media. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, kicking off today's session is Mr. Orlando Vea, founder and CEO of Voyager Innovations and PayMaya. Mr. Vea is a key figure in the business and tech startup communities. In 1991, he co-founded Smart with Dave Fernando, leading the fledgling startup as the company's president and CEO until the year 2000, growing it to be the nation's market leader in mobile telecommunications. Mr. Vea also founded Signal Pay TV, the Philippines' largest pay TV operator, now part of the PLDT group. In 2013, Mr. Vea founded Voyager Innovations, the digital innovations arm of PLDT and Smart, where he currently serves as its president and CEO. Voyager Innovations, together with its digital financial services arm, PayMaya, is leading the way for digital innovations in the Philippines and other emerging markets. Mr. Vea, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tiago, for the kind introduction. DILG Undersecretary Epimaco Densing III, ARTA Director General Attorney Jeremiah Belhica, Valenzuela Mayor Rex Gatchalian, USAID E-PESO Program Chief of Party Mamerto Tangonan, our partners from the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, or ULAP, led by their President, Governor Dakila Carlo Cua of Quirino, and Chairman Governor Presbiterio Velasco of Marinduque, our partners and fellow members from the Management Association of the Philippines, MAP, including Executive Director Arnold Salvador, local chief executives, government agencies, and companies who are with us this afternoon, our friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. We at PayMaya, together with our event partners, DILG, ARTA, ULAP, MAP, USAID E-PESO, and BusinessWorld, are very excited to have all of you with us this afternoon. Today, we are kicking off the BusinessWorld Insights Forum on accelerating digital transformation of LGUs in the new normal. Through this forum, we are gathering the main proponents of using digital technology to help catalyze the transformation of public governance. Today, our first webinar will focus on digital payments acceptance for LGUs. The past few months have brought to fore how digital technology can help government in the uninterrupted delivery of essential services and faster disbursements of financial aid. Pre-COVID-19, cash was king. Today, in the new normal, cashless is emerging as the preferred option. Cashless and contactless technologies help promote physical distancing and touch-free transactions while allowing for crucial government services to be delivered in an efficient and transparent way, resulting in the ease of doing business. Over the past few months, many government agencies and LGUs have accelerated their payment digitalization efforts in partnership with PayMaya. The likes of SSS, DSWD, BIR, DFA, Bureau of Customs, Pag-ibig, and many other agencies, and the cities of Valenzuela, Manila, Mandaluyong, Pasig, Caloocan, Las Piñas, Muntinlupa, and Quezon City, among many other LGUs. For today, we are focusing on enabling cashless acceptance for LGUs. Being able to accept any form of cashless payments, be it credit card, debit cards, prepaid cards, or e-wallets, is important as it expands the payment options for the citizens and hopefully results in higher revenue collections while ensuring transparency. I'm happy to note that even before the pandemic, Valenzuela, under Mayor Gatchalian, ARTA, and DILG through some LGUs, had started this transformation journey, while USAID and PayMaya have been supporting these efforts. In particular, we have much to learn from Mayor Gatchalian of Valenzuela, being the most advanced in digital acceptance implementation. We look forward to collaborating with all of you, and we hope you learn a lot from this session and in the next parts of this series. Our next topics will be on digital disbursements and empowering MSME in the following days. So, to our speakers and partners from DILG, ARTA, USAID E-PESO, ULAP, MAP, MAP, and BusinessWorld, a big thank you for making this happen. Thank you, everyone, and may you all have a great day ahead. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Vea. We'd also like to very quickly acknowledge the presence of Governor Presbidero Velasco of Marinduque, ULAP Chairman and League of Provinces of the Philippines President, joining us in the audience. Thank you, sir. So now we'd like to give the floor to this afternoon's keynote speaker, Department of Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Densing. As the Undersecretary for Operations at DILG, Mr. Densing oversees the planning services, information system and technology management services, financial management services, and administrative services of the agency. He's widely known for spearheading the rehabilitation of Boracay Island, a crucial project of the Duterte administration. Currently a licensed certified public accountant and certified management accountant, he finished his master's in business administration under the Ateneo Graduate School of Businesses, Regis University Executive MBA program, with a gold medal for academic distinction. Prior to joining the Duterte administration, he sat on the board of a number of corporations, serving as a chief executive officer and chief finance officer. Undersecretary Densing, thank you for joining us. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tiago, for that introduction. First of all, my greetings to Director General Maya Belica of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, of course, Valenzuela Mayor Rex Gatchalian, founder and CEO of PayMaya Philippines, Mr. Orlando Vea, of course, Mr. Marvin Santos, also with PayMaya, Chief of Party of the USAID E-PESO program, Mr. Mamerto Tangonan, and of course, Governors Dax Cua and Presby Velasco of the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, and that also representing the League of Provinces of the Philippines. All the local chief executives present, private executives are present this afternoon. Isang magandang hapon po sa inyo. Well, it's a privilege on my part to speak in behalf of Secretary Ed Año for today's session. A very important session because this promotes two more important aspects of local governance, specifically on issues of using digitization or technology in the ease of doing business, and secondly, in the importance of this digitization of transacting with governments, especially in local governments, to be able to fight corruption. And this is very important primarily because this is the foundation of the program of President Duterte, to make sure that there is ease in doing business, that investments comes in without unhampered or with little hindrance. More importantly, making sure that business thrives because of the minimization of corruption in the aspects of local governance specifically. Well, I do remember that PayMaya had their own way of promoting digitalized payment or digitized payment when they, I think a year ago, when they advertised in their Facebook two co-workers or factory workers, I believe, and they were buying kwek-kwek. And in the manner of buying kwek-kwek, which is a street food, no, they use the QR code, no, for purposes of payment. So it's quite unusual for a street transaction using digitized way of payment. And it struck to many of us this way of thinking because it tells the public that digitized payment is no longer limited to the high-end society of our society, but also can be accessed by the lower echelon of society. So it's now an end-to-end way of doing business, especially in this present lifetime. We all know that we are presently in the midst of a pandemic, a global pandemic for that matter, for the last 3 months. And what more can these digitized payments have more access or impact to what we are doing right now? The central bank itself has already recognized that for the past 3 months, it saw the maximization or maximal utilization of e-payments or doing transactions via online. No? And this is primarily for us to keep away, no, because of what we call the social distancing. More importantly, PayMaya in itself has been doing its share or contributing in a way with government. Just recently, it has assisted government in its emergency subsidy cash program or the social amelioration program by helping us distributing close to 1.4 billion in emergency cash subsidy to 120,000 beneficiaries. It was also through PayMaya that we're able to distribute the small business wage subsidy program of the government through the social security system. Of course, some local governments have already used the system for purposes of accepting payments, especially for local taxes in the application of permits and licenses and mayor's permit. So it's quite important for the society or for the Filipino community to be able to adapt to this new so-called new normal. In fact, this brings to us on board in what we call the upcoming, technological revolution that, or fourth industrial revolution that many has been talking about for the last year or so. The fourth industrial revolution is actually telling all of us that technology, digitization will now be part of our life, whether be it education, whether be it entertainment, family, work, business. It is already part of our way of life. And this is something that we have to accept and adapt to. However, in the whole process of digitizing our environment, we must also make sure that if there is hygiene that is a requirement in this pandemic, there must also what we call cyber hygiene. In other words, in the whole process of digitizing e-payments, the manner of distributing cash or doing cashless transactions, we must also ensure security in the whole system of cashless transaction via the internet or via the cyber environment. So in this case, while we are encouraging people to go digitize, to use cashless transaction, we also tell them to be wary of potential scams using this cyber environment, scamming away money from many of us. So what is important right now is for all us is to embrace what is happening right now. We understand that PayMaya together with the USAID is promoting this kind of an environment for more for local government units, specifically to be able to promote e-governance or good governance for that matter. The E-PESO project is really a huge step when the Philippines transitions into a heavily cash-based economy to a digital one that is transparent and possesses what we call a nuanced e-payment ecosystem for genuine economic growth. In other words, while we are moving forward for economic growth, which obviously we will not be experiencing for this year, we have to be prepared for it eventually when all this pandemic, when all the smoke has been cleared. It is very important that at this very point in time, we prepare ourselves to e-governance. We prepare for cashless transactions. We prepare for ourselves to the cyber world that we are about to undertake in whichever level or whichever echelon in society, whether you're in the high end or in the lowest end. So this is something that we have to be prepared for. This is coming. It is something inevitable, but we have to make sure that when we do that shift, there is that manifestation that in the back of our minds, especially as local chief executives, especially as officials in the local governments and the national government, it is important for us to understand that we are doing this for the good of everybody, to protect ourselves, to secure ourselves of our assets. And mind you, again, hopefully everything should be protected down the road. And lastly, and more importantly, as we computerize, as we digitize, as we mechanize, there is one important thing that we should not forget. We should never forget that we are also human beings. That in all the transactions that we are doing right now, we must always make sure that it is humanized, it is impacted to our basic humanity. Because if we lose sight of that humanity, we will lose sight of everything. As we make profit in this pandemic environment right now, using the digitized economy, let us put into our minds that at the end of the day, as businessmen, sometimes at this point in time, we have to give up some of our profits, even to the extent of losing or experiencing a net loss for this year, in favor of making every Filipino, which is your market, to survive this pandemic. Because in the absence of a market, businesses will never thrive. You will never get your profit that you long for. In other words, help us, your fellow Filipinos, survive this pandemic. Let us not focus much on the profit, at least for this year. I do understand that some of you are still thriving for this year, but most of you have already made your so-called profits or billions, millions and billions over the past decades or years. So please help us, every Filipino, survive this pandemic, because if you survive this one, you will get your profit, your market will become intact, and we will become a better market for all of us. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone gets to learn what needs to be learned for this afternoon in terms of digitized games. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Densing, for that reminder, that humanity should always be at the heart of all innovation. Now, to dive a little deeper into how new technologies can help enable better governance systems is our next speaker, Attorney Jeremiah B. Baljica, Director General of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. Prior to his appointment by President Rodrigo Duterte as the country's first ARTA czar, Director General Baljica served as the founding and managing partner of his law firm, Baljica Aranas Baldueza de la Cruz and Associates. He graduated from the University of Santo Tomas and was the youngest pastor to be ordained by the Lord's Vineyard Covenant Community Church, serving as the Manila Congressional's resident pastor for almost 10 years. He also served as the youngest consultant to the Office of the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, founder and chairman of the Youth Moral Force Society of former Chief Justice Renato Puno, and founder and chairman of Kabataang Bagong Buhay, an organization awarded among the 10 accomplished youth organizations of the National Capital Region. Attorney Baljica, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tiago, for that very gracious introduction. I want to greet our distinguished members of the panel and my co-speakers. Of course, my friend Yusek Epimako Densing, thank you for that very inspiring message. Sir, also one of my respected mayors and friend, Mayor Rex Gatchalian, our president of PayMaya, President Orlando Vea, our distinguished governor, former Supreme Court Justice, and President of League of Provinces, National President of League of Provinces, Governor Presbitero Velasco, League of Governor, National Chairman, Governor Dax Kua, Mr. Mamerto Tamonan of USAID, and also Mr. Marvin Santos of PayMaya. Greetings to all. In these uncertain times, now more than ever, we must be equipped to face the new normal with better appreciation not only of online transactions, but the essential need for everyone to be familiar with contactless payment gateways. Even if currency exchange remains to be the focal point of commerce and industry, digital payments will rapidly move into mainstream, especially through the usage today due to these extraordinary circumstances. May I request that my slide be now shared? I'll be showing some slides that even before, next slide please, even before the global pandemic struck to seemingly debilitate the way that we usually do businesses, ARTA, with cooperation of the different government agencies, DILG, and as you could see, our ever-present partners, DICT and DTI, has focused on streamlining and fast-forwarding our country to the digital transformation that we have always sought. The next slide, please. This could be seen through the efforts that ARTA, together with the different agencies, have pushed for the National Business One-Stop Shop, wherein we were able to orchestrate the cooperation of the 5 agencies, national agencies for opening a business: SEC, BIR, PhilHealth, SEC, BIR, PhilHealth, SSS, and Pag-ibig, and to require also them to go through and to use digital payment facilities. Next slide, please. Also, during the pandemic, digital payment again took center stage when ARTA cooperated to initiate and create the Bayanihan One-Stop Shop between FDA and Bureau of Customs. Next slide, please. Wherein the Bayanihan One-Stop Shop sought to streamline the processes uh, in the importation of PPEs and other critical medical supplies and devices. Next slide, please. Through the joint memorandum circular, FDA and BOC even furthermore enhanced their online payment facility. And thanks for PayMaya and the other payment gateways, now two of our most important government agencies frontliners are now enjoying electronic and digital payment systems. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now, getting into the new normal, the priorities did not actually change, but instead, what was decidable before has now indeed become a necessity for the survival and even for the flourishing of government services and businesses and industries in the new normal. Next slide, please. That's why ARTA is committed to continue on pushing reforms and issuing guidelines both for the national government agencies as well as for the local government units to give them the best practices and to lend them the best best assistance that ARTA could actually give these agencies to streamline and to fight redundancies and inefficiencies in their government offices. Next slide, please. We have always said that, as we have emphasized before, digital transformation takes time. It actually first requires the streamlining and rationalization of processes before we jump into digitalization, and digital transformation. Sa madaling salita, kinakailangan ayusin po muna natin ang mga proseso bago po natin ito i-automate. Digital transformation takes time and requires rationalization of systems in order for it to be effective and sustainable. We have always believed in ARTA that the Philippines is poised to become one of the great economies provided that we adapt these changes seamlessly. Digital payments are the lifeline of online transactions. A completed payment assures the exchange of goods and the payment of services that in effect ushers into the new normal in a more convenient and innovative approach. Next slide, please. As you can see, after streamlining, we remove the unnecessaries, we retain the necessaries, and we enhance it, and we tie it all up together neatly. And then we begin to fast track our digitalization and digital transformation. Next slide, please. As we continue to work towards a more transparent and effective delivery of government services, assuring that the ease of doing business remains in the forefront of our battle against red tape, private sector partners such as PayMaya encourages us to continue in the crusade for good governance for a more competitive Philippines. As we have always said, that the train of reform against red tape has already begun. It is slow moving, but it is gaining momentum, and in it is contained are the dreams and aspiration of a more efficient and a better Philippines. Whoever would seek to be against it will simply be ran over. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you as well, Attorney Balica. And now, to give us a grassroots perspective on these efforts to tech up our cities, we have Mayor of Valenzuela City, Rex Gatchalian. Now in his third term as the mayor of the city of Valenzuela, Mayor Rex Gatchalian has built a career in public service, grounded on a governance platform he calls the 5 pillars of good governance, focusing on the essential needs of every every person in Valenzuela in education, health and social welfare services, housing, economic development, and livability. Under his leadership, Valenzuela City has earned over 100 awards and innovations in good governance. These, he believes, are recognitions of the city's economic accountability, disaster preparedness, outstanding employment and micro-entrepreneurship development programs, timely health and social protection policies, sound implementation of peace and order advocacies, and commitment to making Valenzuela a truly livable city. I understand Mayor Gatchalian has a video he would like to share with us today, so let's play that now.
Oh, akala ko mababayaran mo yung amilya sa City Hall.
Tapos na po.
Eh, yung marriage certificate, birth certificate,
Tapos na po.
eh di ba, mag-a-apply ka pa ng business permit.
Tapos na po. 10 seconds lang po yun.
10 seconds?
May paspas permit sa Valenzuela. Online permit system. Wala nang hintay-hintay.
Eh, yung pinapalaba ko sa'yo.
Hindi pa po tapos.
Mayor Gatchalian, thank you for joining us today.
Introduction. Like everybody else, let me just first thank PayMaya and the people who's organizing this webinar together with ARTA, MAP, USAID, as well as business, our publications. Of course, Yusek Densing, DG Belica, to our good friend from PayMaya, Mr. Bea, to the governors and local chief executives. I know that Governor Velasco as well as Governor Kua are also watching, as well as our friends from USAID. Mr. Tamonan, thank you for having me. That video we showed is actually the whole concept of pass permit. Actually, that video is a short video because the same amount of time it takes you to watch that video is the same amount of time that you get your business permit in Valenzuela City. Now, in a nutshell, pass permit is the country's only, as far as we know, only end-to-end business permit system. When I say end-to-end, it starts off with you applying all the way to you paying online and having your plates or your permits delivered through Grab. The system is not just for business permits. It also has a built-in module for building permits. It has a built-in module for local civil registry, so you can get copies of your marriage contracts, other local civil registry details online, and we can have it delivered through Grab delivery. Also, it has a built-in local tax assessment feature, so you can pay your taxes. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for everything that you need in local governance. Now, when we created pass permit, like I said, we know that it's the only one of its kind in the country because it's end-to-end. Other cities may have it in modules, but we have the complete spectrum from assessment all the way to settlement, all the way to delivery. On top of that, it's guaranteed everybody that you get your business permit in 10 seconds upon confirmation of payment. Again, as fast as that advertisement was, our permit system is even faster. Now, why did we create this system? We created this system before because we felt that disruption is a byword in the business sector, but never in governance. But in Valenzuela, we always believe that government can be disrupted. The way you do things in government, you can disrupt it. If you can shop online through Amazon, Shopee, or Lazada, if you can book online for your airline tickets or your hotel tickets, we figured might as well do the same for business permits. When we came up with pass permit, which is purely online as a platform, we figured that we were fighting inefficiencies. We did not want people to be coming down to City Hall, falling in line, spending the whole day just to get a business permit renewal. We wanted them to do it online in the comforts of their own home, and they didn't even have to brave traffic to be able to renew their business permit in 10 seconds. But nowadays, again, the paradigm has shifted. Pass permit is becoming the normal, that everybody is now trying to move to digital platforms or online platforms. Here in Valenzuela, our platform is already running and it's already being utilized. In the last business permit cycle, 200 of our top accounts were mandatorily made to use the system, meaning we would not accept their manual payments. They all had to transact online. They had to use the payment gateway of PayMaya, and other government bank gateways. Requirements are as simple as 1, 2, 3. You just have to upload very simple requirements: a copy of your old business permit if you're renewing it, a sketch of where you are, and your DTI registration. Now, the beauty about this system is it also issues its own barangay clearance, meaning you don't have to get a barangay clearance and upload it, but rather the system also generates it for you, and you are billed for it simultaneous to your business permit. But again, when we were envisioning Paspas Permit, it was about efficiency. We wanted to do away with red tape. We wanted to do away with human subjectivity. We wanted our businessmen to be efficient. We wanted them to go online rather than fall online. But now that everybody's trying to find ways for faceless renewals of permits or less interactions, Paspas Permit is becoming the normal. And now it's a tool for safety. We don't want our taxpayers to come to City Hall because, again, that entails not only risking it by leaving your homes, but also commingling with potential carriers, given that City Hall is an epicenter for everybody coming into the city to transact business. Now, the challenges initially was, of course, low internet speed, but more than anything else, it's the mindset. When we launched Paspas Permit, a lot of people still wanted to use the traditional way. Tayong mga Pinoy, we have this notion na kailangan dalhin yung cheque, yung manager's check sa City Hall, or else hindi makikredit. We had a struggle with trying to make people use it. That's why we had to pass multiple ordinances mandating big accounts to use the system. It's not a choice, it became mandatory. And now, they're appreciating it. They think that it was a good move on their part. They can renew their business permit, pay the real property tax, everything online. Another challenge was the restrictive gateways, payment gateways. Thanks to PayMaya, when we partnered up with them, it opened a whole spectra of banks that our taxpayers are banking with. Remember, we are supposed to use Land Bank and DBP, and it could be quite restrictive if you don't have accounts there. But thanks to the payment gateway of PayMaya, our businessmen will have to pay a small percentage fee for the convenience of using their gateway, and they can access their traditional banks. Now, as a way forward, the local government will unveil its upgraded version. Medyo bago pa, but we're upgrading it already. We're now incorporating the zoning permit to be online, as well as the issuance of sanitation permits and health cards. Everything, we're taking the end-to-end a little bit further by making sure that when you come to city, you don't have to come to City Hall just to get any type of permit. So there you go. That in a nutshell is Paspas Permit. It's something that we're proud of, and it's something that we would gladly share to any other LGU that wants to copy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to share really quickly that we have over 300 people currently tuned in across LGUs, including Dasmariñas, Cebu, and Batangas, among others. Would also like to acknowledge that we have the Executive Director of the Bureau of Local Government Finance, Nino Raymond Alvina. Thank you for joining us. So joining Mayor Gatchalian, Yusek Densing, and Attorney Belhica on our panel discussion today are PayMaya's head for the public sector, Marvin Santos, and Bamerto E. Tangonan, Chief of Party for the USAID E-PESO Project. So a little bit about our two speakers joining the panel. Mr. Santos has over 15 years of experience in the finance industry, both locally and abroad. He currently spearheads government partnerships for the enterprise group of PayMaya Philippines, using online payment solutions to empower agencies like the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Pag-ibig Fund, Social Security System, Department of Trade and Industry, the Professional Regulation Commission, Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Bureau of Customs. His team is also on top of enabling digital disbursements and online payments for LGUs like Valenzuela City, Quezon City, Caloocan, Las Piñas, and Mandaluyong, among others. Now, rounding off the panel is Mr. Tangonan, the Chief of Party of the USAID E-PESO Project, supporting the development of the national retail payment system being implemented by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. He is a digital financial services expert with over 20 years of experience, leading projects advancing digital payments and financial inclusion across Southeast Asia and East Africa. His career spans across the financial services, mobile telecommunications, IT, consulting, and development industries, with expertise in operations, technology, agricultural finance, business development, and project management. Mr. Santos, Mr. Tangonan, thank you so much for joining us in today's panel discussion. to our backstage manager, if we could have the rest of the panel joining the screen as well. So I'm hoping we can have a pretty free-flowing discussion today. So while I'll be directing questions to specific panelists, please feel free to chime in at any time with your insights. But I wanted to kick off today's session with Mayor Gatchalian. Mayor, digital transformation has been a hot topic for years now, right? But as Attorney Bahika mentioned, the current crisis simply accelerated the need for digital adoption. As such, LGUs across the country, yours chief among them, have forged a number of partnerships to help rapidly digitize operations. So I was wondering, could you share some of the stories behind the exciting projects you've been able to launch for the people of Valenzuela, like this Paspas permit system? And how did you go about forging the partnerships to make them happen?
Well, first of all, we understand that there are built-in capacities already in the private sector. As in anything, Valenzuela always believes that you don't have to change the wheel. There are efficiencies, there are expertise in the realm of the private sector, and they know their stuff. For the longest time, Valenzuela has been at the forefront of automating its business processes in City Hall. We've been given most business-friendly so many times because of our business processes in City Hall by the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have a Galing Pook award for this same system. So we wanted to move it online, and we always wanted to disrupt the way we do things. Why does it have to be that taxpayers come to City Hall to fall in line, wait a whole day, and pay just to pay for their business taxes? We figured Filipinos are tech savvy. They already shop online. They already book their airlines online. Why not? At that time we felt that government needed to disrupt things also. We needed to join the bandwagon of digitalizing and going online. That's why we came up with Paspas Permit. But the challenge there was because of government rules that we can only use government banks. We could only use Land Bank and DBP as a payment gateway. That by itself will restrict the number of users because they'll have to open up bank accounts in those banks. And they're not really your biggest banks to begin with. Most of our taxpayers and even our MSMEs use commercial banks that ranges from BDO, Metrobank, so on and so forth. And we figured we needed a one-stop shop payment gateway. That's why we worked with PayMaya, because of the wallet that can be used for MSMEs, and as well as the gateway that they can extend to our taxpayers. So gradually, it liberalized the payment options because the bottleneck was always with the payment options, given that we're supposed to bank with government banks. But now with PayMaya, knowing that they've been a market leader in payment gateway solutions, all we had to do was sign a memorandum of agreement with them, and lock and load, before you knew it, the whole system was complete, from assessment all the way to settlement.
Yusek then saying, we often hear projects just like these cropping up around Metro Manila. Could you give some examples of how LGUs elsewhere are digitizing? Mayor Gatchalian mentioned payment gateways. What are some of the other barriers that we're facing here outside of Metro Manila, and how can we accelerate the adoption?
Well, even in the provinces, they've already started to digitize. I think one city in Isabela, if I'm not mistaken, Kawayan City, under Mayor Diaz, already started to digitize. In other words, payment for purposes of mayor's permit and other licenses are also done online. For the rest of the other highly urbanized cities, we're encouraging them. And we're always using Valenzuela and Kawayan City as examples that payment online can be done. And again, we wanted to do this for two major objectives. One is for the ease of doing business. In other words, so that we can efficiently process permits and licenses without the delay in the payment by paying online. And the other one is really to minimize corruption, because the more government officials interact with the private individuals for purposes of getting permits and licenses, the more temptation for them to transact and corrupt practices to enter into the picture. So we are really encouraging, especially the highly urbanized cities, to begin with, to start doing e-payments, and hopefully they follow suit. I mean, it's obvious this can be done. So it's just a matter of time them joining the bandwagon.
Right. Mr. Tangonan, you've led many similar projects across the globe, liaising between both private and public sector stakeholders. I'd love to hear some of your insights that you've picked up from leading these initiatives, such as your current efforts maybe with the BSP. From your experience, how do you spot opportunities for innovation? And what are the key determinants for a successful partnership?
Well, based on my experience, I can cite five key points in spotting innovations. First of all is you see the pain point or you see the problem. So based on my experience, it's been always effective to start from that point. And second, and related to that, is um, we address the root cause of the problem. So it's going to be a sustainable solution instead of a band-aid approach. And third, I would say is we incorporate human-centered design in the solution, bearing in mind how the customer, especially the one who's going to pay for it, for the service, is going, what his experience would be, the quality of his experience would be in utilizing the service. And of course, the fourth one would be make sure you get the economics right. Make sure that all actors who play a role in delivering that product or service are incentivized, and that leads to, I think, the fifth factor, which is make sure that for an innovation to be sustainable, that market system can form around it, meaning there would be incentives for each and every player to do his or her part in order to create that service and deliver it to the customers or to those who need to use that service. That's all I can share, Thiago.
Thank you for those 5 points. Now, Attorney Balika, I'd like to get your take on this as well. Actually, a few years ago, I moderated a panel at the Business World IR 4.0 Summit, where you said that there is a natural dissonance between the pace of governance and the pace of innovation. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, of course, but I remember you said that while innovators must move fast, governments must move deliberately, and that really stuck with me. I think that recent events have shown that we need both of those perspectives to build really resilient, effective, responsive systems. Could you expand on that a bit? How should government administrators best approach innovation?
Well, thank you, Thiago. I'm impressed that you remember that. During that, I do remember that wonderful time that we had. Um, First off, I think now it's becoming more clearer that digitalization, and digital transformation, streamlining, and all of the things, all of these interrelated concepts that we have seen in some of the government agencies, like with Mayor Rex Gatchalian and the other government agencies that are already uh, digitalizing or digitally transforming their processes. It's no longer a desirable activity for them, but this is necessary, as I would say, even for the survival of their agencies. Because how long can government agencies operate in a uh, skeletal force, in a alternative way of 4-day work week setup? So I think the innovation for government administrators now, they have to understand that innovation would come to play in two aspects. The first aspect is in the streamlining and re-engineering of their processes. They have to be able to find a way to remove those practices that does not serve any purpose anymore. Um, Earlier this morning, I was in a meeting. I think our friend Nino was there from BLGF. We were discussing about some government agencies would hold on to regulatory imposition of regulatory fees for the sake of you know maintaining the collection of money, even if the regulation itself that they're trying to maintain is no longer that relevant to the entire process that of getting permits and all of those things. Um, but if we would begin to adapt a different mindset and innovate and think and say, perhaps there is another way of looking at things and looking at it at a different paradigm and perspective. A citizen-centric approach is necessary right now in order for us to survive. Dahil if we keep on refusing to give in to the wave of the new normal towards digitization, then government would cease to function in accordance to what the people actually need. And secondly, so the first is, as I mentioned, you have to think of ways on how to streamline and how to do things differently. But the second part is the digitalization or digitization. We cannot digitalize or we cannot automate something that is not rational or streamlined muna. Because baka masama dun sa automation, the red tape that has been there for so long. So innovation would come into play. You really have to think out of the box and to find solutions, get the best practices. I'm thankful that we have Valenzuela, we have as sinabi ho ni Yusek Densing, City of Kawayan. I could even think even Parañaque and Batangas City who also embrace the online system. And let me just point out very quickly before I end, no? Uh, According to Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business Law, local government units have until 2021 or 2022 to employ or to create their own electronic business one-stop shop. So similar to what Mayor Gatchalian already has. So I would suggest that we take from their cue from the lead of these cities and start automating our process and incorporating digital payments. And that is innovation wholesale. Thank you, Chago.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So clearly there's no shortage of great examples to pull from. No? I want to throw this question to Mr. Santos. I'm sure over the years you've worked closely with probably everyone on this panel today, helping bring new technologies to as many Filipinos as possible. Today, PayMaya is at the helm of a cashless digital infrastructure that spans really the entire country and built on a considerable network of partners. From what I understand, one clear benefit of that over the last few months is this kind of infrastructure allows you to instantaneously deploy critical resources directly to the people who need it. But are there applications that have still not yet been explored that you see a lot of potential in, whether in addressing COVID-19 or beyond?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Tiago. And first of all, magandang hapon po sa lahat. We would like to, first of all, thank you our guest here, Yusek Densing, Maya, and Mr. Tangonan. We would like to thank you for pushing digitalization on the government. And kay Mayor Rex, maraming salamat po, Mayor, for trusting PayMaya to partner with you doon sa Paspas Permit. Wala pong duda ngayon, the pandemic has made all of us realize the absolute necessity of doing cashless and contactless payment. But prior to COVID, digital payments have already been growing fast because of e-wallets like us, PayMaya, as the fastest means for people to have a financial account. No? Pero ngayon, naging mas mabilis ang adoption dahil cashless and ang mas convenient at safer na paraan sa babayad at pag-transact sa gobyerno. Kung noon, cash is king, ngayon, cashless is necessity. Cashless is more convenient, safer to use, and iwas virus tayo at mas rewarding. Doon naman tayo sa Tiago sa usapang ease of doing business in the better normal. Ano? So bago pa dumating ang COVID-19, nakakatrabaho na namin sina Maya of ARTA and mga iba't ibang national government agencies katulad ni Mayor Rex Den sa LGUs. We have been supporting the government key initiatives, especially those in line with 11032 which is the ease of doing business. To date, PayMaya has been enabling the payments collection and disbursement of over 50 government institutions and local governments. So ngayon naman, ang question natin is, how can my LGU or how will the LGU embrace and accelerate digitalization? First, we have to understand that ease of doing business is the better normal. No? The government should be resilient, agile, and quick to respond to the needs of the people. During this pandemic, mas nakita natin ng mga leaders natin, nakita ng mga leaders natin ang kahalagahan ng digitalization sa government. Mas mabilis silang nakapagbigay ng ayuda. At the same time, hindi rin gaanong nahinto ang government collections natin kahit sarado ang mga opisina dahil meron na tayong online payment. But I would like to quote DJ Maya sa sinabi niya na kanina na before we go digital, we need to streamline our processes first, right? So I would like to address also yung isa sa mga reason kung bakit hindi nag-go digital or bakit hindi nag-online ang mga LGUs natin. So sinasabi nila na expensive daw. Minsan po, takot ang mga LGUs natin to go digital kasi akala po natin malaki po ang gagastusin. So sa totoo po, halos walang gagastusin ang government on this. Wala na pong bidding requirement kasi zero expense po. And at the same time, wala naman pong exclusivity. The more payment options you have, the better for the consumers and constituents, di ba? For government agencies, all they need to have is an end-to-end digital financial services platform that can accept payments and revenues collection up to the disbursement of financial aid. And ang kailangan lang naman po is that the payment options can work from online to offline. And ang kagandahan naman po dun sa payment natin is it can accept multiple modes of payment as mentioned by Mayor Rex. We cannot just offer yung mga government banks natin kasi hindi naman lahat ng tao may account sa kanila. So we're opening the payments with e-wallet, credit, debit, and prepaid cards. So with PayMaya po, your LGU can accept in real time payments for anyone whether online or on-site po. Ano? Ibig sabihin na po niyan is makakatanggap kayo ng payments online sa mga websites nyo. So pupunta lang po yung mga magbabayad sa website nyo and they can already make payments kahit ano pang mode yan, credit, debit card, or e-wallet. At the same time, bubuksan din po natin ang mga smart padala natin to accept payments. So we have 30,000 smart padala network. So hindi na kailangan pumunta ng City Hall po yung mga magbabayad. Doon na lang po sa mga smart padala. And kung talagang wala pong choice at kailangan pong pumunta sa mga city halls po, pwede naman ho tayo mag-offer ng cashless solution or contactless to our POS and our QR code po. So, kanina minimension natin on going digital. Bakit po ba kailangan natin gawing cashless and contactless ang mga transactions natin sa government? So, una po sa lahat dyan, ang benefit natin is the safety and security. Alam naman po natin na COVID, hindi po yan matatapos in a few months and hoping ho, makahanap tayo ng vaccine but we're expecting na tatagal po yan. That's why we need to have a contactless and cashless solution po. At the same time, the convenience and accessibility po, payment anytime, anywhere. And also on the cost savings, less transaction cost po and reduced cost of handling cash. And ang pinakamaganda naman po dito is the transparency and good governance po ng mga LGUs natin. And I would like to add po as proof that PayMaya is here to support our government agencies. Unang-una na rin po rito ang Valenzuela City. We have enabled the city's Paspas Permit program on the payment side po. Another example po, hindi po nabanggit kanina, but I would like to announce that Ormoc City of Mayor Richard Gomez will soon, the residents can actually pay their business permit po via the Ormoc app. Okay? This is the same payments technology powering cashless option for the national government agencies and GOCC such as BIR, Bureau of Customs, DFA para sa mga passports po ninyo, and DTI para sa mga business name registration. And we also have the SSS, Pag-ibig, and more. And not only that, we're powering this LGUs payments collection. Sa next session po natin, we'll also discuss the disbursement po. Just to highlight lang po, during this pandemic, we have this, as mentioned by USAID Dancing, we already disbursed 120,000 beneficiaries, amounting to more than 1.4 billion po. No? So, yun po yung solution na dinadala ni PayMaya po. It's really an end-to-end solution. And maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, So now we'd like to invite members of our online audience to share some of their questions. I have some of the questions already coming in. I'd like to use this opportunity to build on that last point, no, of Mr. Santos, painting a picture of a possible post COVID-19 world. It's very clear that a lot of LGUs want to digitize, right? We have a question here coming from one of our attendees. The question is, our LGU doesn't have a big enough budget to undertake massive digitization. How can we start digitizing our transactions? Any advice from the panelists?
Yeah, Chago.
Yeah.
If I may, there are what is impressive with the private sector. Um, Even the solutions on how to digitize and even the sourcing of the funds and a more creative arrangement between the private sector for the digitization or digitalization of the processes of the LGUs could already be explored and struck. There are even some arrangements uh, that would even allow the building, even the all of the capital and the building would be uh, coming from the private sector as well, with some convenience fees that would be exacted to the public. I've seen some projects done already, especially specifically in the establishment of their business one-stop shops, and even there are even others right now who is going through the same business arrangement. So I think if the LGU is persistent enough, he would be able to find out that there would be a lot of private sector groups who would be willing to give them this arrangement. Yeah.
So finding the right partners now. Yes, Mr. Tangonan.
Yeah, Chago, I would just like to add because we've been working with over 10 LGU partners in the course of our project. And in those years, a number of solutions have come up and is being offered by the private sector, technology service providers on so you don't have to own the system, you just need to pay per use. So it's cloud-based, and it can do your assessments of the LGUs. It can, for real property tax, for business permit, it can capture the application from the paying public, and then it can lead you to the process, and it can also accept digital payments. So with this, the investment of the private sector would just be of course, you need some hardware, but not really big ones because again, this is cloud-based, and there's not really much of a huge one-time investment to speak of because the model is like pay as you go. So there are these technology systems providers for LGUs, and of course, like what DG Maya mentioned earlier, and also Marvin. Um, um, with the payment providers, they necessarily don't or the LGUs don't necessarily have to bear the fees because for the taxpayers' convenience, I think the charges are very reasonable, and that is, of course, trade off for the convenience that they get.
Thank you.
Right.
Chago,
So,
may I add
yeah,
very quickly?
for sure, of
Uh,
course.
Thank you, Sir Mert. Also, I think the problem now, or the challenge would now be shifting on whether there are private sectors who's willing to partner with the LGUs into choosing the right partners right now, because as mentioned by Sir Mert, there are several uh, uh, as we say private sectors who are already doing this, but for the LGUs who might be listening to us, the critical points that you would be considering in selecting the right partner are basically two important aspects. First is the data privacy, of course, where you'll be entering with the private sector. make sure that all of the data privacy measures as required by law would be sufficed. And second, also on the data security. But those two things, if those two things would be answered, then I think you have a very good deal with the private sector. Thank you, Chago.
No, thank you very much. So the second question comes from one of our audience members, Roxanne Villanueva, and it's for Mayor Gatchalian. And I think Mr. Santos, maybe you can chime in as well afterwards. The question goes: how did you encourage ambulant vendors or those who are earning on a day-to-day basis to enroll in PayMaya or any sort of online banking? What was your advocacy strategy?
In Valenzuela, ambulant vendors they pay a fixed amount. We have an ordinance wherein their business permits are pegged at 500 pesos only. So they're really not part of the system because the convenience fee will be much bigger than what they're actually paying. But for MSMEs, they are actually very receptive to using PayMaya. When I say MSMEs, these are sari-sari stores, carinderias. They are actually very receptive to signing up with Paspas Permit because the PayMaya wallet allows for small transactions. If I'm not mistaken, 5,000 pesos, then you can pretty much set up a wallet already. But the program excludes ambulant vendors because their business permits are only 500 pesos and it's pegged. It's an ordinance of the city.
Mr. Santos, do you have any insights you can add to that? What about PayMaya? Like, what are the features of PayMaya that allow for ambulant vendors to make use of it?
Okay. It's a good question, Thiago. What we can actually do here, we prepared a slide specifically for that topic. Maybe we can present it. And this is actually an ecosystem. We have this program called LGUs, Embracing and Accelerating Digitalization, or we call it LEAD. Madali siyang tandaan, Thiago. It's LEAD.
LEAD.
So you mentioned kanina yung mga ambulant vendor. How do we integrate ba the ambulant vendor and the regular tindahan ni Aling Nena? So parang isang kwento lang to eh. It's one community made safer and better by PayMaya. So imagine, sa isang araw ni Maria, makakatanggap siya, for example, ng digital ayuda or financial assistance from a government agency, mapupunta yan sa loob ng PayMaya app niya, right? So si Maria, kailangan niya sumakay ng jeep or tricycle ni Mang Juan. So si Mang Juan, meron siyang PayMaya QR. So ang gagawin ni Maria is that i-scan niya lang yung QR niya, pangbayad doon sa tricycle niya or sa jeep niya. So cashless pa rin tayo. And then, ang gagawin naman ngayon, yung pera ngayon na kay Mang Juan na. So, kailangan bumili ni Mang Juan sa grocery, sa palengke, or even sa sari-sari store. Ang gagawin lang ni Mang Juan is that i-scan niya lang din yung QR niya doon sa tindahan ni Aling Nena using his PayMaya. So, ang ano natin dyan is si Aling Nena, magkakaroon na ngayon ng laman yung PayMaya wallet ni Aling Nena. Saan ba pwedeng gamitin ng isang ambulant vendor or yung katulad ng isang Aling Nena, yung laman ng wallet niya? So right now, pwede niya ng pambayad ng utilities niya sa tubig, sa kuryente. But at the same time, pwede niya na ngayong pambayad ito doon sa Valenzuela's Paspas Permit. So they can already use yung PayMaya wallet ni Aling Nena pangbayad doon sa permit ni Mayor Rex. Then, end state niyan is that pag may pera na ang gobyerno, meron naman tayo ngayon pang-disburse na sa mga tao. So, ang sinasabi natin dito, Thiago, is that it's a complete ecosystem ng PayMaya. This is how we encourage an ambulant vendor to use an e-wallet and to pay for their business permit. So, ito yung end-to-end solution natin. So, ang kailangan lang tandaan ng mga LGUs natin is that LEAD. It's LGUs Embracing and Accelerating Digitalization. Yun yung programa na ilo-launch ni PayMaya in the next few days.
Quick follow-up question. This actually comes from Yusek Bernie Sayo. What are the safeguards for PayMaya? Perhaps in terms of financial safeguards or data safeguards, data privacy safeguards.
So, okay. Para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, si PayMaya po is a licensed and registered non-bank financial institution ni Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So lahat po ng safeguards, lahat po ng regulations kailangan namin po sundin since si Bangko Sentral po ay register po kami sa Bangko Sentral po. And yung mga sa data privacy ho, lahat po yan compliant po kami. Charles.
Thank you for that, Mr. Santos. This next question is for USEC Densing. This comes from Emerson Templora. How can the provision, I think this is from the local government code, the collection of local taxes, fees, charges, and other impositions shall in no case be let to any private person. How can this provision under Section 130 of the local government code be reconciled with the use of electronic payment systems? Perhaps Attorney Balika can also add to that after you, USEC Densing.
Well, we're not actually, that's not a private individual collecting on behalf of the local government. It's still the local government collecting using a payment platform. So there's really no conflict with that provision. And that's why we are encouraging local government units to use a payment platform so that there can be less interaction between local officials collecting and that of the private individuals, again, to minimize corruption activities. So there's no conflict. Now, it's different if it's a private individual collecting the taxes and fees itself, then remitting it to the local government. So it doesn't work that way. This system is really just a payment platform for easy collection on the part of the local government.
Yeah. Thank you, Tiago. Just to add, I do agree with USEC Epi that it is actually the government who's still collecting it. Or we could also say, put it also in the perspective that when the payment facility is remitting the payments to the government, the transacting public actually is authorizing the payment facility to also to hand it over to the government. So it actually goes both ways, I believe. But this matter also has been raised in some of the forums, and I believe that some guidelines also would be issued just to clarify these things. But there's really no stopping us from using these payment facilities. As we have mentioned, that both parties, the paying public as well as the government itself, both recognizes that the same payment facility as a facility for the government and the paying public.
And
Thank you for that. Oh, go ahead, please. Yes.
And Tiago, if I may add,
Of course.
in these payment systems supervised by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, they make sure that almost instantaneously, as the amount is debited or deducted from the account of the payer, exactly the same amount is credited or added to the account of the local government. So it does not pass through any private account or anywhere else, but the funds go straight from the payer to the account of the government agency, including the LGU.
This next question comes from Helbert Antoine Achay, and it's directed towards USEC Densing, but of course everyone else in the panel is invited to chime in as well. Is there a way to mandate with a specific time frame, so urgent, the LGUs to migrate into processes like those implemented and proven successful in other LGUs like Valenzuela City? Perhaps the DILG, I guess this is a suggestion as well, perhaps the DILG has a mapping of LGUs who are tech and process ready for this process, for these systems?
Well, under Republic Act 11032, which is the Ease of Doing Business law, all local government units and national government agencies, for that matter, are required to digitalize or computerize their system by 2022. In fact, if not for the delay in the signing of the implementing rules and regulations of the Ease of Doing Business law, it should have been next year. No? So because of the delay, they have until 2022 to computerize. And they have all been given notice that they have to computerize at least the revenue side of the whole system. We've already asked the DICT to at least make a software to be able to distribute or for the usage of the local government units come 2022, at least on the revenue side. There were also several private sector initiatives, no, to offer such a system at a much lower rate outside of the cloud system, as mentioned by Mert a while ago, to offer the system to the local government. We're talking about a system only worth between 2 to 3 million, which a third class or fourth class municipality can afford, given their budget, and they can use their ERA to be able to apportion a budget for it. So it's more on a requirement of the law, but government and the national government is actually trying to assist them to be able to fast track their computerization by 2022. So we are all monitoring, and as of date, we're only talking about 5% of the local government units nationwide, which has computerized their system, primarily because many of the LGUs are really in the third class, fourth class, and fifth class municipalities. And I do think none of them have started computerizing yet. That's why we're trying to develop a system that is cheap, that they can afford to adopt by 2022.
Yeah. Tiago, if I may dovetail from the excellent explanation of USIC EPI, that's correct. The compliance of local government units from the highly urbanized cities to the independent component cities to component cities to the municipalities are they're being given until 2022. However, the first, I think we have to prioritize when we would be accepting and asking these local government units to comply. The priority group for the compliance should be the highly urbanized cities. We've always mentioned it in wherever we go that we are encouraging the highly urbanized cities already to employ the electronic business one-stop shop. Number one, the models are already there. The great examples of Valenzuela and the other LGUs are already there. The private sectors are already there, ready to help. And also, the highly urbanized cities both have the most resources as well as the most number of business clienteles within their localities. So, kasi baka sabihin, no, if I'm not mistaken, around 1,600 LGUs, sabihin that the municipalities, bakit kami mag-electronic one-stop shop, but the nearest HUC hasn't even reached the business one-stop shop. So, much less than sa kanila. Pero, if we strategically encourage the HUCs, kayo muna, the highly urbanized cities, total nandiyan naman yung mga businesses inyo, and then the cities, and then so on and so forth. I believe the more important thing here is not just that all LGUs would be able to have these electronic business one-stop shops, but that the most number of people would first have this ease of doing business efforts by the local government units. Now, secondly, it's very important to understand that the Central Business Portal, which I did show kanina, yung National Business One-Stop Shop, it already collated and put together the systems of the SEC, BIR, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. Now, it is now ready and waiting to be interconnected with the LGUs, no, na pwede na po na at one stroke from the very beginning, from the SEC, you could just submit all of your requirements, and eventually pwede na rin po siyang maikabit natin on the next phase, no, for the next phase of the automation, so that the LGUs could also be interfaced already with the Central Business Portal. But there is actually a proposal, and we're looking at it, na maybe the national government could also already come up with the Central Business Portal model na sinabi ni Yusek Tensing kanina, that centralized na, no, lahat ng mga LGUs na wala pang capacity, na mag-automate ng kanilang processes within their localities could already use the national portal or the national platform and process their business permits online there, no? Yung katulad ng ginagawa kila Mayor Gatchalian, no? As standardize lang namin siguro nila USEC then seeing ang processes ng mga LGUs through a joint memorandum circular that we are actually finalizing para pare-pareho at uniform na ang processes nila sa LGUs. So it would be easier for us to automate, to have that national automated system for the LGUs. Thank you very much, Tiago.
Thank you for that. So to close out the session, I'm hoping we can end by painting a picture of a possible post-COVID-19 world. This new normal that we're all trying to co-create. Now, this question is for all our panelists to give a quick insight. Looking beyond COVID-19, what would a completely digitally empowered LGU look like? How do you imagine LGUs making the most of the tools we spoke about today and technologies to not only replace dated systems, but also build better, more resilient, and more livable cities? Perhaps we can start with whoever wants to give their last quick insight on that. Attorney
Tiago, if I can.
Yes, of course.
Go ahead, Rex. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, as I've been mentioning a while ago, if the migration to digital happened long time ago in the private sector, they were able to disrupt the way we did things, the way we do things. I really believe that the local governments can easily adapt. Bottom line, we should stop calling it as the new normal, but rather it should be the normal. It's no longer new, technically speaking, because moving to the digital age has always been happening. It's just that maybe the realm of the public sector has been a bit slower than the private sector. But now there's an opportunity in this post-COVID world wherein people are scared to come out of their houses or go to crowded places like City Hall. So we should take advantage of that. In Venezuela, at least, our goal is when you're a taxpayer, in fact, we just passed an ordinance that is mandating it for all corporations now. It's no longer an option, but everybody has to transact online. The ordinance came out yesterday. The bottom line there is taxpayers do it at the convenience and safety of your own home. No need to come to City Hall. City Hall should be sparsely populated by people who actually need to seek help rather than people who are actually applying for a business permit. Of course, we all know that social welfare needs face-to-face time in order for you to be able to assess, and that's what we should leave in City Hall. But other than that, business processes, business permits can be conducted at home.
So maybe not the new normal, no, but the normal that the Filipino people deserve. No. Any closing words from the rest of the panel?
That's right. What we're experiencing right now is exactly the normal that we want. No? In other words, all transactions may be done without necessarily connecting to people, at least at the moment because of the present environment. But moving forward, everything should be digitalized. In other words, convenience is the key word for everybody, especially for those transacting business, or those transacting with government. In other words, we should be providing convenience. And that has been the emphasis to the President from the very beginning, giving convenience to every Filipino in whatever way, whether in business or transacting with government. That should be the normal. So what we've been experiencing in the past is really abnormal. So if ever what happened, the only thing abnormal that is happening right now is going out with a face mask. Doing this webinar, although this is something that we have to be doing in the next few months, to some extent, we cannot really measure the feel of the people. No? I used to speak before thousands of people, and you will really feel the human side of everything. So that's normal. That's normal. And I believe Mayor Rex would be missing talking to a lot of his constituents in Valenzuela. But again, that's why what we're trying to do is really putting a balance in everything that we do. While we want to transact business with convenience, we should not veer away from the fact that we also have to humanize everything. Otherwise, everything will be like a wall, everything will be like cement. Well, everything has no more feelings. In other words, it's a balance between digitalizing everything for convenience, but at the same time, never disconnect ourselves to the world. And that should be the normal way of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, Mr. Tangonan.
Yeah, well, I just want to add to what Mayor Rex and USEC Epi mentioned. I think, yes, obviously at this stage, we need to put the transactional elements of local government service into the digital platform. So when we need to transact with government, as in to access or yeah, secure permits, or pay our taxes and fees, these very transactional applications for digital needs to be there online. But then we can also use the same platform for more effective governance from LGUs engaging their constituents over the digital platform, encouraging citizens' participation through digital platform in terms of like reviewing budgets and providing some inputs into how resources of the city could be used or allocated, and also some bottom-up consultations for people to easily express the problems that they are encountering in the LGU, and for the LG to get a quick feedback of the situation that their constituents are facing. So in other words, maybe in the near future, aside from the transactional applications for to be put in the digital platform, I think governance can also be included there. And of course, all these solutions require a partnership, because it's very hard to undertake all these by a single entity. And for successful partnerships, there needs to be alignment of incentives, as well as there has to be symmetrical commitment also, because it cannot be that only one or a few of the partners are committed to the project when others are not as committed. So there has to be symmetry there. So I think that's my insights, Thiago, and thank you to you and to the organizers of this webinar. Thank you to my fellow panelists and speakers for the wisdom that you have shared, and thank you to the viewers for listening. Hope they get something useful and productive out of this webinar.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's my turn naman, Thiago.
Of course.
Thank you, Sir Mert, Yusek Epi, Mayor Rex, our partners for the forum. Siguro, it's quite obvious for us that the need for digitalization it was accelerated because of the COVID situation. But I do agree with what the Mayor Rex said. Let's stop calling it that this is part of the new normal, because this has been the future that we have been looking at. So it's a matter of acceleration, and I think it would even affect how the people would be expecting from the government. What kind of digital measures, digital transformation measures are in store for the people, and the people would always, I believe, would now look and ask the leaders, ano ho ba ang plano natin for the digitalization of everything. And that is I think also part of our expectation as people from government. When we say ease of doing business, actually what we're saying is automation, bandang huli. Yan talaga ang kinakailangan natin, because even if we streamline everything, ultimately what we want to happen is that it has to be online and automated. But for the government officials and entities, LGUs, who are listening right now, there are some things that we could actually do and available right now. One is this digital payment that we've been talking about for 2 hours now, but also digital signatures. You do not need to digitalize everything yet. Pero if you use the digital signatures, which are already available through the facilities of the ICT, they are more than willing to uh, to teach us how to use these digital signatures. And contrary to some hesitations of the public, digital signatures are actually, in my opinion, even more secure than actual signatures because you could basically trace everything. This is not the word file signatures that we're talking about. So there's a certain protocol that you have to go through. Digital signatures, digital payments, and also digital submissions of documents and release. No, one very simple technique that you could even apply is uh, to recognize submissions to your offices, email submissions to your offices by other offices or by the private sectors as an official communication already. Kasi yung iba, still waiting for the hard copies. Pero medyo nagta-transition na po tayo dyan. So these simple things would already be sufficient and makikita nyo po by using this simple techniques, digital signatures, digital payments, you would dramatically see changes in the way things are being done right now. Thank you, Thiago, and congratulations for this wonderful seminar.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Santos, any last insights you want to share?
Actually, nasabi na ng mga panelists natin all about digitalization. But I totally agree with Mayor Rex that this is new normal. It's a progressive normal. It's just unfortunate na realize lang natin siya or na-highlight lang siya during the pandemic, ano? But what I'm trying to highlight sana is since nasabi na nila lahat on the automation and digitalization, what I'm just trying to highlight sana is about the financial inclusion. Dati kasi, ang sinasabi natin is that pag nabigyan mo lang ng ATM card, yung mga 4-piece beneficiaries, financially included na sila. Pero kung titignan nyo, ang gagawin lang nila is withdrawin lang nila to cash out lang. So hindi natin alam kung saan napupunta yung pera. But right now, dito sa progressive normal na sinasabi natin, what we're trying to offer is that on the government side, we're gonna digitalize the government. They can accept payments na. For example, ang isang aling nena nasa park lang area, hindi natin alam kung member siya ng SSS or nagbabayad siya ng SSS. So, ang dahilan ni aling nena, malayo ang SSS office sa akin. Malayo ang pag-ibig office sa akin. Hindi ako makapagbayad ng contribution ko. But since we empower these government agencies to accept online payments, ang aling nena natin is now updated sa contributions niya kay SSS, updated sa pag-ibig. So pag nag-retire si aling nena, may benepisyo siyang makukuha. So yun yung sinasabi natin, na isang aling nena nakakapagbayad na ng permit ngayon sa mga LGUs natin. So at the same time, if we give aling nena the online platform, makakatanggap na ang isang maliit na aling nena na negosyante ng mga online payment. So ang sinasabi natin dito, with digitalization, kaya niyang i-expand yung market niya. So this is what I'm trying to say. Financial inclusion is not just giving money to a cash card account, but financial inclusion is really giving them an opportunity to be included in the progressive normal. So yun lang ang aking parting words, Thiago. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Santos. I think that's a fantastic place to close today's discussion. A big thank you again to our fantastic panelists, Yusek Densing, Attorney Belhica, Mayor Gatchalian, Mr. Santos, and Mr. Tangonan. Thank you again as well to our event partners, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, the Management Association of the Philippines, PayMaya, and the USAID E-PESO Project, and our organizer, BusinessWorld. And of course, thank you as well to our audience. We hope to see you all next week for the next leg of BusinessWorld Insights, where we'll be continuing our discussion on building better cities for Filipinos through digital innovation. Stay safe, have a great afternoon, and thank you again.
Thank you.